close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. Their back row living in his White House. So many stories that I need to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why you're the way you are. So many stories right in front of me. Some people climb to heights I've never seen. Too many falling down off their feet. These stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Tiptoe around with face of a stranger. Quiet observer, never get too close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. Their back row living in his White House. So many stories that I need to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling?
Ladies and gentlemen, get greasy. It's the Silverline show on Tuesday.
Yeah, baby.
Hosted by me. I am Tim TK, associate editor and producer of our Tuesday show. And as always, I am joined by Mr. Quentin Bedwell.
Hello, everybody. Quentin Bedwell here. Working on some stuff for the future of Silverline.
Perfect. And I am also the writer-creator of Wolf Hunter, which will be coming out later this year, it looks like. And currently editing Mantis Files as well. Quentin, where people may recognize your work?
Well, I've got a game on GameCrafter.com, Relic Quest. It's open beta. It's pretty much 95-98% done. Just a couple typos here and there, and trying to get the price down by changing around some components and stuff. But yeah, it's over there. Also, I'm working on book 3 of Trumps and some other stuff. And yeah. You see some other stuff on Facebook if you come to Quentin Bedwell on Facebook or QJB on DeviantArt.
Alrighty. Well, normally we do have Aaron with us, but he had to take this week off. And they haven't said anything about this week, but potentially in the future we will be joined by a couple others. Currently sitting in the backs of the roster are Alex Galmore, J.W. Franklin, and Chuck Bordell. So maybe just been issues getting Discord working this week, I'm not sure, but hopefully they'll be able to join us in the future. So we're going to be talking about a couple things today, but first of all, since we do abide by the rules of Cream, comics rule everything around me, have you seen Black Widow, Mr. Quentin, yet?
I have not watched it yet, but I did hear that it really did well as far as expectations go, considering that it was pushed back so far.
Yeah.
So I'm anxious to see it, see what it's all about.
I have some. I don't think Taskmaster lived necessarily up to my expectation, but as far as the movie overall, I did enjoy it.
Good.
I thought
good.
I thought they did go to Black Widow's character, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that builds into the future with the other widows.
I tell you what, I did see that I was like insanely surprised and impressed with was the Tomorrow War. I don't know. Did you watch that one?
I did. Yeah, I enjoyed that as well. Yeah.
Man, that thing was solid. Mm-hmm. It was good, and it kept me wondering all the way to the end, and I was waiting for them to mess it up. I even went past the credits to see if they were going to mess it up, and they never did.
No, it was solid the whole way through.
Yep.
In the Facebook chat, Tommy says, "Tim, where's your beard? You look 12, young fella." Yeah, I am currently baby faced. I've noticed that there are two types of faces. And for those of you who have sort of the middle lifestyle haircut, either you have something like a Matty Mullen style face where you don't need a whole lot of anything to cover up your jawline because it's super sharp, or you have what I have, which is like a Ryan Clark or Shauna Lion face where you need a lot of beard to cover it up, and I need a lot of beard. Yeah. But we had a wedding over the weekend, not my own. I was in the groomsmen, and the dress code was mustaches, so I shaved down to my mustache.
Oh boy!
And then immediately shaved off that to regrow the full thing out. Yep.
Yeah, I try to grow out a beard from time to time, but man, it just gets on my nerves too bad. And aside from that, it's just got gray here and there. And yeah, I'm only 19. I don't know what the heck's going on.
Yeah, no. My buddy got married. He's about the same age as me. He's in his mid-20s. But he's gone beyond just being a silvered fox all the way to like Siberian snowcat. So he is just shock white, which is pretty interesting to see for someone that young.
Yeah. I had a friend like that though. I had a friend just like that.
Yeah.
He got gray real early, but then I met his dad. His dad was like Kenny Rogers. He was white hair, white eyebrows, even.
Yeah.
Like, wow, dude.
Yeah, my family's hair is never like grayed, but it's just thin. So at some point, I will just still have a pretty vibrant beard, but I will have to go full Kojak, just shave the top.
Oh yeah.
Tommy asks, you all see the trailers for Marvel's What If? I've seen a little bit, but I
haven't yet.
I got stuck up watching the trailer for Star Wars Visions, which looks super good. It's they got a bunch of anime studios from Japan to write 8 short, like, hour-long Star Wars stories. So,
well, I tell you, I'm really excited for what they have coming. There's some of it I'm a little iffy about, but hopefully they'll pull it off. And for the first time in a long time, I am actually really excited about what Star Wars has coming down the pike.
Mm-hmm.
Now that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have, kind of taken over that whole thing. Woo, man, I am ready. Ready for him.
Dave Filoni has pretty much been, like, tutored by George Lucas since he was just getting into it. So having him at the helm seems like the natural choice. So I'm super stoked. Mackenzie,
he has his own figure now. Did you see it? I don't know if you pay any attention to it.
Does it have a hat?
No hat.
Okay.
They don't have a hat that comes with it, but he's in the starfighter suit.
What
you call that?
Yeah.
But he was in one of them. I can't remember.
I know
which one.
He was in the he was in a little bit of Mandalorian as one of the Republic Rangers.
Well, they already put out the Jon Favreau figure, which was Happy.
Yeah.
You can buy it in a 2-pack exclusive. So there's that. So that now they've got both of them.
But will we get a figure of Jon Favreau and Chef? That's like a deep art cinema reference for anyone.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Wortman, I'm never here live. I feel like I've entered the Twilight Zone talking about beards. We just kind of we'll eventually get to a topic, but we just kind of let things roll here.
There's no telling where we're going to end up on this journey, this epic journey that is that Tuesday show.
Yes.
That Silverline Tuesday show.
Exactly. Tommy Flormonti, my beards suck. My wife hates it when I don't shave.
Same.
Star Wars Visions, checking out. I don't have a wife yet. Working on it. He's checking out Star Wars Visions. Let them talk about Star Wars. That's important here. Like I said, we're just going to talk about a lot of things tonight. We cover many interests between the two, normally 3 of us, more in the future. So we have plenty of off-topic subjects to go over.
Oh yeah, I've got so many interests. I mean, I've just got a plethora of knowledge that spans, and none of it's worth anything.
Exactly.
It's just so it's fun to have, though.
Yeah.
But before we go any further, we might want to plug our sponsors real quick.
That indeed we do. Thank you, Quentin, for checking that out. Be on the lookout for that. We got History Camp America, which happened July 10th. So if you were guys had checked that out, that was a live history camp online for free, where we had a full day of lectures and everything like that. So hopefully you were there. I checked out a little bit of it. But this is brought to you by History List. And History List is an ongoing thing that you can still subscribe to, where each week you get a newsletter with essentially a theory or a write-up by an actual historian going over some historical listening curriculum for you. So that is definitely a fun time, especially if you're a forever learner like I try to be. The other one is still coming up is Daytona Beach Comic Convention, DaytonaBeachComicConvention.com, your go-to place for all things collectibles, comics, and probably dudes who haven't left their basement in 2 years. And the Daytona
That's
Beach
all right. Hey, it takes all kinds.
Well, we've been there. We're there right there too. It's venturing back out into the world this week has been a trip. We just recently ended our quarantine here, so it's it's been a trip. So that is going to be your go-to place for all that. You can visit their website, DenoBeachComicConvention.com, for dates, prices, everything like that. Back in the chat, Star Wars Visions, just watched the trailer. Holy Star Wars, manga Star Wars, love it. Exactly, I am so stoked for it. They got Studio Trigger to do some of that, and Studio Trigger is one of my favorite anime studios, so I am super stoked. So our actual topic for tonight is going to be, well, at least for the first hour, as we do try to break things up a little bit in the in-between times, so that way we can have an easier time editing down for the podcast, although I don't know how they edit us down, because if they want to actually stick to the core subject, you get about 5 minutes of usable footage.
Yeah.
So, our subject for the first hour is comics that inspired us when we were younger, or comics that inspired us as a kid. Last week we kind of talked about a full wide swath of things we take as input when we're making stuff and things like that. Or was it 2 weeks ago? I don't remember at this point. Time is meaningless and a construct. So we're narrowing it down, kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of specifically comics, what got us perhaps into making them, or what made us go, holy crap, this is awesome, when we were younger. So I will open that up first to you, Mr. Quentin.
Well, I'm not exactly sure which one came first, the chicken or the egg, but it was either G.I. Joe or it was by Larry Hama, or it was Secret Wars. And one of them led me to the other, and I seem to remember it was G.I. Joe first, and then my brother had gotten a couple Secret Wars comics, and when I read Secret Wars, I fell in love with superheroes for the first time. Never really understood them or thought much about them. Of course, I was only 5 at the time, I believe. So, yeah, I think that was what started it. Between those two titles, the military with the G.I. Joe, and the superheroes with the Secret Wars. And ever since, that's been kind of like my two. And of course, there was Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So, naturally, fantasy, space, military, and superheroes, all of it right there. That's what makes, that time period so great, is so much stuff moving at once. Mm-hmm. And let's not forget the little comics that came with the He-Man, because I would get those, and I loved those. And man, I would just see that art, and it resonated with me. It clicked. It flipped a switch in my brain. And there's a lot of switches that have went off over the years, but that's one that, I can always rely on it. Always count on it. I love to see good artwork, and I study it. Mm-hmm. I study it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even what I consider bad, I study it, and I appreciate it. Because I know work went into it.
Yeah. There's also a lot of importance, I think, in reading or watching something you think doesn't work, and trying to figure out why you think it doesn't work. And, like, if I was making this, how would I break it or bend it to make it work? Yeah, I mean, those are all solid picks.
Yeah, and some things are just ripe for mashups. I like all this about this thing, but I don't like all this other stuff, and that's just real good fodder to put with other stuff and say, what if I mixed a little bit of Highlander with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and maybe throw a little, it's like baking a cake.
Yeah, there is
coming out with something new.
Of course, we have our favorite mashup here, which is Charles Barkley versus Godzilla.
Yes.
Yeah, but Dark Horse and Nike.
Yeah. Dark time in comics history.
Dark time.
For some, though, it was the beginning.
It was the pinnacle. Yeah, it was the beam of light. I know. Oh man. Well, this thing about it, my toy related comic that I got into early on was actually Bionicles. Yeah, when Bionicles had their comics, came in the tubes with their dudes. That was my toy related thing. But I think the first thing I really got into was X-Force, even before I really got into X-Men. I had mentioned this. I told the story a little bit on Wednesday Wham a little bit ago, but I had stumbled upon my dad's comic collection, or got that, and had some old DC stuff, some old Superman action comics, but yeah, so I had some X-Men, and X-Men I got more interested into, and then introduced Cable, and this Cable's design spoke to me in the amount of pouches he had.
So much different than anything going on at that time.
Yeah.
Cable.
It was just really kind of an insane design, yeah, compared to everything, where it's just, all right, well, everyone's all these, he still had the spandex, but it felt more like, I think he had cargo pants instead of, like, trousers and underwear. Yeah. He had full bandoliers, everything like that.
Substantial shoulder pads.
Yes, yeah.
With all of the many... I love what Pete's done with Champion... I think it's Champion Miss Fury with the... oh my goodness, it's hilarious. He nailed it, man. Yes, he nailed it.
So I followed Cable over to X-Force, and that's and just kind of having more mercenary style heroes. Kind of they're there to do the job and do it by whatever means, and it's all very very gritty, and they did tell some darker stories, but still had that like. That beam of hope, like, we're here to do the stuff so other people don't have to. We're making sure the good guys can live another day without knowing the bad guys exist.
What I always liked about the X-Force is it always seemed to me that I was reading an older story.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I really liked about it. It seemed like it was older themed, and it made me feel like I'd kind of I was graduating to the next, age group.
Yeah, I think definitely, because that was also like mid comics code, but when a lot of stuff was kind of almost like pandering down towards kids, having something that didn't pander down to you. I mean, I was I was one of the gifted and talented kids, so I read ahead of my grade. And so after reading, Hemingway in middle school, you don't necessarily want to go back down and read something that feels like a kid's book almost, which is what the Comics Code kind of did to comics for a little bit. You want something that feels like it's willing to explore some of those deeper, darker subjects.
Well, after Secret Wars, when I did get into more of the hero comics, I went to Captain America, I went to Spider-Man, collected Spider-Man for a while during the 300s era where Venom was just coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really, those were really fun books. Fantastic Four as well. They were really more fun, and they were more old school, very Comics Code, but X-Force comes along, and even some X-Men, but man, X-Force comes along, and it just had a special kind of grit to it. And then whenever when Marvel released McFarlane's Spider-Man, when he came off of Amazing Spider-Man onto Spider-Man, then that was gritty. It started gritty. It started, and it just seemed like everything kind of went that direction after that. But X-Force was definitely the first one that, really started getting into that.
Yeah. That's
that darkness.
I mean, that's definitely, I think, the kind of... I mean, people have different opinions. I know Dean Zachary is definitely a lot more into the Boy Scout hero, and I do think they do have their place in comics, absolutely, but...
Oh, definitely. I definitely do.
Yeah, but the Marvel Analytics, when you look at what happened in the 98 reboot, the 90s, they had made some bad choices, printing too many alternate covers, essentially over-investing when they couldn't necessarily make it up. So they trimmed down their titles, and then 98 they relaunched with all their gritty stuff. It was for a while, Venom had replaced Spider-Man at the front. You had X-Force taking over X-Men.
He's at the head of the pack right now too.
Yeah,
he's number one on the list. Of course, they're not even on the, the big list, top 20. That's a shame. None of them are in the top 20, but he's at the top of the. But But what you said, about the Boy Scout books, I can't imagine if I'd have started reading comics with X Force.
Right.
That would have been like too much. I can't imagine how it must be for when all of them are dark. It's not really special anymore.
Right.
And that was what was special about it.
Yeah.
But when everything goes that way, then it's like,
Yeah, it's definitely about maintaining that balance. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's also now, now with everything being dark, I think that's also why I liked reading Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel for the bit that I did, because she is pretty much a Girl Scout, and she's just like, I'm just there to get through high school and save my friends.
Yep.
And
Well, I like that. I like to, it's kind of like everything else. Sometimes I like to have a little bit of fun,
Yeah.
and that would translate to reading a Spider-Man comic because that's fun,
Yeah.
and funny and fun, and sometimes I might, want something dark, something mean, gritty, and I might gravitate over towards some Punisher or X-Force, for something like that. It's got to be variety. It's got to be.
yeah, and much there are comic readers of all types, so I definitely think that I lean more towards ultra violence in most things than most people.
I do too. I don't know what the big deal is.
Yes. This is man being literally turned into paste. I'm in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Ben Piercy's X-Force and Wolverine right now are pretty excellent.
I have not seen it yet.
It's good, yeah. Ben Piercy's Wolverine debuted at number 1. It fell off, and it's not in the top 20 anymore, but it did take number 1 for the first 2 months of its release.
Yeah, he's high up there.
Yeah.
I know that. There's a couple of Wolverine titles that are up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've been enjoying it. And Ben, well, he's a fellow Oregonian, so woo.
Yeah.
But he's actually I think he lives over more towards the Midwest now, but he grew up not too far from where I live. And of course I met him in Florida, so not related to where we are now at all.
So you said Oregonian.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Because at first I thought you said an Argonian.
Argonian, like
I thought
Skyrim.
you were talking about like Elder Scrolls. What?
Yeah, we're both lizard people.
Argonian,
Yes.
huh? You like the Argonian?
Yeah, we're both the lizard people underneath New York and LA. Yes.
They make good tanks.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, poison resistance is incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, guys, we talk about everything. You just never know.
Exactly.
I mean, you're going along on comics, and then boom, MMO. Pow. We'll be on tabletop next. There's no telling.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, ultraviolence. But if a company is all just ultraviolence, then you're only getting people like me. You're not getting readers who like both, or readers like Dean who want the bullshit more.
One trick pony.
Yeah,
that's what you call it. I don't know what that. I don't know where that saying comes from, but it seems to fit.
Yeah. There certainly is value in kind of starting out as a niche. In most things, but even then, a niche doesn't have to be the same exact thing over and over again.
Well, I can say, that sometimes people can be so varied that you really don't know what they're pushing, because there's so many things going on. But at the same time, I think you can go the other way and do too much of the same thing, and not,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and I think
G.I. Joe Secret Wars, that's what started me.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you happen to still have some of your old books that you had back then?
I actually had I had an ex-girlfriend at a dark time in my life, and after we broke up, she had taken my box of books and sold everything. And so,
man,
I lost all my comics. I lost all my Dragonlance books. It was rough. It was a rough time. But I have gone through and repurchased a couple of them. I haven't been able to get like.
Do you want to say her name now that we're online
Now
and
that-
millions are watching, just say her name.
I
I'm just kidding. Don't.
I want to say that I feel like I'm the one who took the moral high ground in the way things went. So
I think that deserves it, though. Don't ever let me find out her name.
I will not.
That's terrible.
I will not dox her, but I will maintain the bitterness for a long time.
Well, now I feel a little bit ashamed to say I still have my old books.
Oh, that's awesome.
But so I do still have them. There's I have, and this is the thing, is they are bagged but not boarded, and
little limp.
I just never have went back into the old suitcase. And we're talking like a really old suitcase.
Yeah.
I've never went into the old suitcase and boarded them.
Yeah.
It just that's one thing that always got me when I did actually start looking to preserve stuff. It's a lot of work, when you're collecting something. Besides just the collecting, there is the maintenance of it, and that's just that's kind of where I fail a little bit. So
yeah, I have a few that go back there and board up still, but I got. You sure in this pile? I don't have the original X-Force that got me into it. There's like the Age of Apocalypse, Age of Strife type stuff. Age of Strife, holy cow, that storyline was amazing. But I think I have the one that had. It's one of my. Yes, it's right there. One of my favorite. A little more modern. I think it was 20. It isn't 2013, 2014. Don't quote me on that. I have my favorite artist, which is Rocky Kim, and I actually have the complete set that I managed to find at our local hobby shop.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I was looking at Warhammer stuff, and then I went into the back and found this just, on sale. So, of course, I had to jump in there and grab it.
Well, what I did is I read the first few from years ago.
Okay.
And then, of course, things were happening that it actually was out around the time I was in junior high, I believe.
Yes.
And then it was much later whenever I started picking them up again, and I'm trying to remember, I want to say it was Cho was working on it by then. He became a thing, and it was where they were wearing Warpath, Wolverine, Psylocke. They were wearing the gray and black suits.
Oh yeah, so this is like the sex and violence era. So
way later, yes, yeah.
So that was also Domino and Deadpool had joined by that time, and I think Dupe was just about to join.
Yep, and Archangel.
Yeah,
he was in there, and it was actually the storyline about X-23. It's when X-23 was really first kind of getting her wheels, really start getting a foothold into the comics. So,
yeah, and it's also where I think Wolverine had also kind of given up the game on. Jean Grey had died again, so he had kind of moved on and was getting with Domino, and I think that was honestly probably the best relationship for him, rather than trying to pursue Jean Grey at the same time as Scott.
Yeah. All their relationships are so funny.
Yeah.
Especially the gritty characters are so funny.
Yeah. The very it almost felt very clean on just flirting only when killing people.
Yeah.
Actually,
hilarious.
Yes. Actually, I really like some of the stuff when they also bring in the X Club, and you have the X Force, who are just battle hardened killers, and X Club, which is all the R&D team paired together. So you have Dr. Nemesis and Forge working the same time as Cable and Wolverine, and the banter that results in is just fantastic.
Now, as far as DC, I just never. I have old DC books. I've got some of the what was it? Millennium issues from years ago.
Yeah,
Um, I have a few here and there, but it seemed like every time I started picking up their books, they were inside of some crisis that was like all of the worlds,
Mm-hmm.
and I could never tell what was going on. I would be on one storyline, and then it was just like, this huge thing on multiple Earths were converging and splitting apart, and I guess every time I tried to get into it, it just was a bad time.
Yeah. I could only DC I could only get into as, I mean, I pretty much just do that now with the big two anyway, but except for, I still get X-Men, or yeah, I still get X-Men as the trades, and I still get X-Force and Sword as my monthly downloads through Comixology. But DC I could only ever do through full collections. Like, just give me the hardback of the entire storyline. I don't want to have to dig through everything.
Yep. That's kind of what I started doing with them, is just waiting for the trades to come out.
Yeah.
I mean, because I even, like, whenever they did the New 52, once again, I tried to, get back in, and I started collecting the New 52, and then, it was just, it was weird.
Yeah.
It was still weird, because even though they had started it over, the more you read Batman, the more that in the background they were calling back to stuff that had happened that wasn't supposed to have happened, because this is the New 52.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it just really confused me a lot. But I missed a couple issues, and the way I'm a collector, and if I start missing issues, I'm like, I leave it. I'll just leave it right there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I liked it. I enjoy. I love seeing Jim Lee do those characters.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. And that's mainly what I got into it for, was just to see him, do those characters. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I mean, the only DC thing that really stuck with me when I was younger was Green Lantern. And I mean, I haven't written I do have a pitch out that's kind of like it, but I haven't written a comic out yet that's full space power, but I do have a few pitches out there. But I have written some prose and short stories that have sold that are, you can definitely tell there's some Green Lantern influence. But I feel like,
well, I just read, after all these years, I saw it when it was out, and I didn't pick it up because I missed the first few issues. And so it took me a while. So then the trade came out, and I waited, and I just now got and read The Brightest Day.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then so it was good.
It's
good. It was good. I'm glad that I didn't get it just after, because there's always spoilers, but man, it was so good, especially just getting it now and not trying to chase it then. It was really good.
It's a good story.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's probably that also is one of my favorite Aquaman moments. Riding the zombie shark. But I find that I've actually got inspired by DC stuff more recently. And even then, like, I don't buy their street level stuff. I have to get it, but their trades or their collections, Red Hood or Arsenal, Red Hood and Arsenal, or Arsenal and Red Hood. I can't remember who headlines in that one, but it feels a little X-Forcey, but the buddy cop dynamic in there, it's definitely rubbed off a little bit on my writing right after I had read that.
What usually gets me on a title is artists. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Usually artists, if I see Terry Dodson into something, I will pick it up. And if I like the story, I kind of go with it. And if it's good enough, I will stick with it after that artist leaves. So it's indeterminate after that. But, when everything start getting iffy or crazy, then
Right.
or it ends, there's that.
Yeah. I think I get more out of stories, especially from the big two, that actually end after a year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Give us a run that's like 12, 24 issues. Give us like the big arc with the characters that we know and love, but don't make it feel like it needs to go on forever, because it doesn't.
Yeah. 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 Usually, when I get through a certain amount with one, and I know I'm not going to finish it because I just don't. I'm not able to put the kind of emphasis on collecting comics as other stuff. When you have a lot of interest, it's just hard to, you can follow it down, but when it starts to lull, whereas a lot of times most people might stick around, I'm one of them that, man, you got to keep it, can't be having plot holes too bad,
Yeah.
taking me out. I usually just like get on YouTube or something, see how stuff turns out, or I'll wait for the trade.
Right.
I usually try to wait for the trade, and then if it takes it a while, then I'll usually get on YouTube and spoil it.
Or my day job is in a financial office, so I have a lot of downtime where I'm not, analyzing reports or whatever. It's our firewall. I don't think they watch us, but our firewall does not block fandom. So I get all like the Marvel and DC wikis. So there's been a couple deep dives on company time. But
the way ours works is if they think you're into something or doing something, they can actually go back and watch every bit of your history and everything. So just be good and don't
exactly. I mean,
don't give them a reason to look back.
Exactly. Do your job, and then use the downtime to kind of do whatever.
Right.
Get your job done first.
Right.
I produce my volume, and then it also doesn't hurt that I talk to my RAT guys about Marvel stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
But I mean, if even an area of 250,000 like people, and we don't have a decent comic shop, we have hobby shops, and they get comics in, but they don't have like an actual like comic shop that gets new releases.
Man, yeah.
So that's weird.
We have one, maybe two shops now here in town.
Mm-hmm.
We had a place called Hastings, and man, I love that place. It was like a Books A Million, and had a coffee shop in it. Had movie rentals in it.
Yeah.
It had, and you could trade in games. You could trade in comics. You could trade in, videos, all kinds of stuff for store credit. And it was so good. And we had left to move back to Mississippi. And by the time we got back 2 years later, it had a massive buyout. And the people who bought it out just let it, just pretty much pieced out the company, broke it up and sold,
that sucks.
Pieces of it. And ever since, there's just been nothing. You could go in there, though. You could pick up books, any books, like novels, comics. I said, if I ever become, well off enough, I will have one of those stores. I will make one of those stores, because you can go in there and have coffee and read, and people would meet there. I mean, the place was doing good, but shame. So we have one place that has comics, and then we have one place that has, or two places. One of them keeps moving around town, and I have to find it. It's crazy. They're really good too. I just hate that they move around so much, but and they're all the gaming stuff. Tabletop and miniatures and D&D, all that stuff.
Nice. Yeah, but I was saying, for me, the collecting is kind of, I found my rhythm with collecting just because, you have to when the nearest actual comic shop is a couple hours away, which is actually, it's a pretty good shop too. Books with Pictures in Eugene. If you're in the area, go check it out. But I just I read through my trade, then I go on Amazon, pre-order the next trade. There you go. I got my X-Men run collected.
Pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah.
It works.
But it does kind of suck though not being able to actually like support a local brick and mortar store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing about that is it's very hard. Sometimes because you go in the comic store and it's this much, and then on Amazon
Yeah.
somebody's gonna have it cheaper.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do it.
Mm-hmm.
On some stuff, not everything, but some
Yeah.
stuff. But
I mean, there's, you always try to find a good deal, but some things you do on principle.
yep,
Yep.
you try to support people that you like, or stuff that you want to see succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Uh, Tommy says, story stepped away. Can we start over again to about the 16-minute mark? I have no idea what we were talking about back then.
I don't even know.
We've covered so much territory.
So books that we started on, or that got us started.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned, G.I. Joe, Secret Wars. I had mentioned X-Force, also Bionicle. Well, I guess kind of we're getting closer to about the end of the first hour. Got about 13 minutes left, so we could get back on subject for just a little bit here before we change subjects again.
Yeah.
So what do you think you took from those books that originally inspired you? What are kind of the things that you carry with you as you created now, or as you got started out?
I would have to say I was most impressed with the art, but I think that's because I was kind of leaning toward that way even early on. I mean, I've always done art, and the real difference between, I think, a lot of artists, but particularly me, because I know me, is that when everybody else was drawing and kind of left it, or would be happy with something with just a few little lines here or there, I would still be working on something. And I wanted to work on it and finish it, and actually make it look good, get it to where I liked it. And I think that was the real difference. But the comics, I think everything always started, even the bad stuff. It started with my brother.
No, yeah.
He would bring something in, and it was through him that I got introduced to Star Wars. It was through him I got introduced to G.I. Joe. Even the Secret Wars books, he picked those up, and I got, every time we'd go to the drugstore or something, I would pick up whatever I could. But usually whatever he would start me on, I would, and that led into later life with, other stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
But definitely the art. And I would read the comics, but really, that was really secondary to me. And what is funny is, I recommend going back and reading comics that you read when you were younger, because you pick up so much more than what you did when you first read them. Yeah. And I don't mean just like it is with everything. Yeah. I just mean like, that younger mind, less experience. Yeah. There's just certain things your brain doesn't comprehend, so it skips over. But then when you get older and you go back and you read, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
This was here the whole time.
Yeah. I did do a half fib. I do have one issue from the cable standalone during the first Age of Apocalypse by Rob Liefeld, and that was going back to it now. It's real good. But it's I know exactly what you're talking about with that sort of brain phenomenon. It's the same thing as where you go back to playing a game that stumped you as a kid, and you're like, was I just stupid? Do I?
Yeah. And I'll say, there's some stuff that I have been very pleasantly surprised about, like G.I. Joe, for instance. A lot of people remember it by the FHE, what was it? Sunrise that did the cartoon.
Yeah, yeah.
The cartoon was, they'd shoot all day and never really hit anybody, and
Mhm.
every now and then a Cobra Trooper would fall or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Until the movie, and then they tried to kill Duke, and
Yeah.
Cobra Commander. It was crap. But anyway, but the comic though, that thing, there was some real depth to that,
Mhm.
and I didn't realize it till years later, and even more here lately. There's Joes who die in that thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, we're talking Breaker, Scarlet, uh, Storm Shadow, all those old greats in the comics. I mean, those 50, I was listening to some guys talk about it. It's pretty crazy. It's just stuff that I totally skipped over when I was younger.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
those things are pretty in depth. They're
Yeah.
not child's play, some of the themes that they have in them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd say some of the things that I took with me, and that I do find kind of influencing my my current tastes in media, especially as well as the way I create stuff. Just in terms of theming or creating characters, is I do like my grim, dark, or my ultraviolence, but I do like it with just like the slightest tinge of hope.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm in my friend group. I think I'm the only person who's liking the current direction of the Warhammer 40,000 storyline. And I also like Age of Sigmar. It's still grimdark. It's still, for the most part, it's very bleak and violent. But you have certain characters come back that they're the one beacon of hope, and like as long for the people in the storyline, as long as they're there, everything's going to be okay. And so it allows you to do a lot of fun dynamics with this character being this person. How do they deal with the pressure of being the one person that everyone trusts in a world where everything is falling apart? So that's a fun path to explore. You also get to deal with the weird dynamics of, even just your average person in that world, where everything feels so crappy, but you hear stories of things getting better in some places, but you can't see it yet. And, I pulled that a lot from the Age of Apocalypse storylines. X-Force, especially leading the Brewbreaker and the sex and violence era, where Wolverine especially was very much into the point where it's like all being a mutant is right now is killing. That's all there is to it. That's all we do is just kill until one day we don't have to kill. But you had Charles and Scott to the point saying like there is hope of utopia, and we're going to make it happen even if we die trying. And so that was a fun dynamic watching that develop.
Well, one thing that I was sitting here thinking of while you were talking about that stuff is, I find it, extraordinary that there's still stuff that some other people that were born in the same time span I was, and they were into stuff that I only ever learned about, like, way after the fact. Like, there's even some stuff now that I've never even heard of, and people are like, yeah, man, such and such, is from,
Yeah.
and a lot of this stuff just wasn't available to me at the time. And, my interest just kind of treed off of one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And I can't imagine if I would have found other books, and like them, there's no telling what my creative direction or, my baseline would be right now if I'd have been introduced to something different, or I mean, it would have just went off into a totally different direction. And I find it interesting to hear how people started. So maybe some folks in the comments might have some stuff they'd like to share, but I'm telling you, it's really interesting. Like when I hear Aaron talking about Appleseed, I didn't even know about that till years later. It just wasn't a thing here. I mean, we were lucky to get in southern Mississippi. We were lucky to get only the cream of the crop, top of the stack stuff. In grocery stores. Or in drugstores, and all on a rack. There was no comic stores or any of that kind of stuff. So I find that pretty interesting to hear people's their beginnings.
What's really funny is, especially here, everyone remembers the same animes from earlier, but they remember different shows just with the same animation. As with our proximity to Japan, Oregon's always had a very strong Japanese American population, so the bootleg stand is like commonplace at Saturday markets, every Summerfest, everything like that. So you always get like, all right, everyone's watching the same like bootleg VHS of this whatever, but it's all been subtitled differently.
Well, check this out. I was probably 18 before I had even. But a friend of mine that I was going to school with, he was my geek pal.
Oh yeah.
His parents had a comic shop in Columbia, Mississippi, and he is the one that introduced me to anime and manga, and I never even heard of it. And I was just, of the mind that, oh, this is some niche thing.
Right.
It's not going to go anywhere. I had no idea that it's like, this is what, people around the world are reading except for you.
Right.
But anyway, but come to find out later, there was a cartoon that I really liked when I was little, and I can't remember. I think it was like something Train 2000. But I watched it when I was a kid, and I knew the animation was different, but it ended up that it was anime. And I had no idea that it was anime. I didn't know that's what it was called. And I really liked it, but I never watched anything else like it again. And I don't even know how I got it, to begin with. But I had a VHS copy of it, and I watched that thing over and over.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know what was going on most of the time, but it was cool.
Yeah. Alrighty, we are coming up on the hour mark, so we're going to go ahead and give our mid-roll shout-out to our sponsors again, and that is going to be the History List. We need to update their graphic. I think they're still sponsoring us. But History List, they are a weekly... Steam Patriots is still happening. Wolf Hunter
if not, there you go, History Camp.
We're still doing history stuff.
We're still endorsing you.
Yeah, because I believe they're still tied to Wolf Hunter issue 1, so we're just going to keep going with it. But a History List, you can get a weekly newsletter featuring articles, theories, write-ups by historians. So if you are a forever learner, it is a great resource. As well as Daytona Beach Comic Convention, DaytonaBeachComicConvention.com, your go-to place for all things collectibles, comics, and maybe even your first expo or convention in our post-apocalypse world that we are about to enter into, or already entering into, depending on which state you live in.
Yeah,
it's a wild ride. So in the second hour, we're going to be changing the wheels on the bus and talking a bit about these comic adaptations. Now that we have talked about the comics that inspired us when you're younger, a lot of those same storylines are being adapted into different forms of media, movies, TV shows, games, each to different levels of success or acclaim. But specifically, we're going to talk about our favorites, and if they are adapted into movies or adapted into TV shows, what we like, what we don't. So I will again open up this hour by passing it to you, Mr. Quentin.
Well, as far as movies or TV shows, it's kind of hit and miss. There was a time when I believed that DC was the only one that could make an adaptation for a movie, and then that changed. Like, boy, did it change. And it was like, Marvel is just gonna have TV with the Hulk, and DC's just gonna have movies with Batman, because every time either one of them would try to flip over and try to do the other one, just didn't work that well. But now, DC kind of has TV, although it's in a format that I kind of grow tired of after a few seasons, which is the soap opera format.
That
CW has going. I watched it. I was into it for a while. The Green Arrow and Flash.
Green Arrow's
and I kept.
Yeah.
I mean, it just. I don't know that soap opera format. After a while, I get tired of people whining.
Yeah, Green Arrow was the only one that stuck with me, and even then, I fell off after about 5 seasons.
Yeah. I felt like they've done about all the cool stuff I think they're gonna do, and now it's just all about how we feel about each other, and it seems like a lot of times it gets to where characters go out of character to do something as a plot device to all of a sudden somebody's mad at somebody, and over something crazy, and it's just like it just kind of gets to me after a while, and I just get to where I can't even watch it. But I don't know. I think there's. I'll pass it back over to you, and then we'll just kind of go back and forth because I've got plenty to say on it.
Yeah. I mean, I said, I think I've seen several episodes of the Adam West Batman just by merit of my parents, but compare that to the Lou Ferrigno Hulk. It's Hulk every time. But
we watch reruns of that during the day, the Batman.
Yeah.
And at night, prime time was the Hulk.
Oh,
that was where you showed up at night. In the morning with a bowl of cereal to watch Batman, and the evening with dinner, to watch the Hulk's on.
Yeah.
And then somewhere around in there it's like Hee Haw.
For us, it was MASH.
Yeah, and MASH, Hee Haw, Knight Rider.
Oh yeah. The Hoff.
Yes.
Man, speaking of, things inspired us, the Hoff has been a constant cultural callback, which is now it's just the concept of the Hoff is the cultural touchstone.
He is much bigger than the Knight Rider.
Yeah.
Now he's ascended to another level.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the Dukes of Hazzard was really good too. That was really, really good back then. I mean, everybody now you would never see that car on TV.
Oh yeah,
because of certain decals and
things,
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can find a way to rebrand it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, now especially, I feel like Marvel just kind of with the Disney Plus, Marvel just really kind of laid all the cards on the table, and it's like, well, we actually have we have a roll flush. So, sorry, DC. But for a while there, DC did feel like it still they had swapped, and so Marvel movies are great. DC movies had fallen off after Nolan, but their TV shows are still going strong. And I liked Arrow for those 5 seasons, and I got why people would like Flash or.
I liked Smallville. I watched Smallville for 4 solid seasons. Yes. I watched Smallville, and then they got to where they were taking off all the time and having these breaks. Yeah. And I think Smallville is what started me binge watching series.
Because he couldn't wait for it. I think that was also during the writer's strike, so I think it was like,
it may have been.
It's like we got no material. We have to go on hiatus.
But it seemed like I think I was kind of new to it all, and I didn't realize that the way shows work is they have like a mid-season finale.
Yeah.
And for somebody who doesn't pay attention enough to know, you work all day and then you come home to watch TV, you want to watch what you want to watch.
Right.
And this is a little bit, it's not even nearly pre-internet time or anything, but it's a time when I didn't really use the internet for looking at stuff and streaming stuff. Sure. So like you really had to be there on the couch when it came on.
Yep.
Or else you didn't get it. It was pre-Hulu, all these other things that came up to where you could stream it later, if you missed it. So, like, it just seemed like they were taking off all the time. So I quit watching it, and I just never did return back to it. But again, it was like the same soap opera type thing.
Yeah.
And they tried to hold on to the story, of course. Are they going to find out that he's Superman? It kind of got a
Right.
little after 4 seasons of,
Yeah, gotta be a little bit much. Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, now with Marvel's TV shows, I've kind of really stepped it up too. And that there's, I mean, Agents of Shield had not really done well, but I feel like now the short run TV show or the limited series, I think that might be my favorite way of adapting the comic right now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because like Agents of Shield was exactly what I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Under budgeted. You're never really gonna see anything. You might see, some stuff that would get get you excited, but you wouldn't really see anything spectacular like the movies. I
Exactly,
knew
yeah.
it would be that way, and that's the way it was. And every now and then they would have something come up, decent effect stuff, not great. But what they're doing now, it doesn't feel like you're watching a TV series, and it feels a little weird whenever people, to me, when people refer to Loki and the Scarlet Witch and Winter Soldier and Falcon, whenever they refer to them as TV series, to me, it just doesn't seem like a right title for that. Because they're really like movies.
Yeah.
I mean, because they have like an endless budget.
Yeah. It's
you'd never see some of this stuff on a TV series.
Yeah, exactly. It's especially in America, we're so used to the syndicated TV show where it's
Yep.
You run your pilot, you get picked up for a season. If you get renewed, you then run forever until they tell you to stop.
Yep.
But it's more like the British system or even the Japanese system, where like, all right, we have a story that's 6 episodes. Are you going to fund it? And either it's yes or no, and then you have the 6 episodes to tell the story. I mean, that's what Luther was. Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock, which is also phenomenal. But it's especially when you have adapting comics, which essentially are in their best format, a limited series. You have a 6-issue arc.
Yep.
So it gives you time to really explore the depths of everything, and maybe even to pull material from side runs or anything like that. But it gives you more time than a movie would to really explore all the depth of material. But you're not going to run into the issues like with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or of stretching too far beyond what. So you need to spread your funding so thin, or like where Arrow and Flash happened, where you go to a point where you're out of material and you just have to rely on manufactured drama necessarily to keep it running.
I think another big difference, with S.H.I.E.L.D. and what they're doing now, is that S.H.I.E.L.D. seem to always, like, for instance, if you watch Loki, then it's going to have some stuff that is going to affect things, no telling how far out, even into the movies.
Yeah.
The movies are reacting to what happens in the Scarlet Witch, in Loki, and, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Because it's all part of one, arc, huge arc, all these subplots, and they're working, and it may be just a little golden nugget out of the whole series, but it's something that's going to go forward. Now, S.H.I.E.L.D. seemed like it was more of a trickle down, what happens in the movies affects S.H.I.E.L.D. and not the other way around. You could watch S.H.I.E.L.D. all day long or never have watched it, and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they bring out Chuck Colson, or not Chuck Colson, what's his name? Phil Coulson.
Yeah.
Unless they bring him back later and don't really explain to people, and then people, and they never watch S.H.I.E.L.D., they'll be like, well, how did he get back? He died in the first movie. Well, if you watch S.H.I.E.L.D., you'd know, but it's really that's really the only thing that's consequential about the whole thing. So I think that's why these things work so much, or I enjoy them a lot better than the S.H.I.E.L.D., because
Yeah.
it seemed like to be Shield was reactive to what was going on in the movie series, whereas these are actually changing the plot line, you know,
Absolutely.
and it behooves you to watch these because later there's going to be Easter eggs or callbacks to that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're not going to run into that with Shield. On the other side, DC suffers from multiverse syndrome, where they can have 4 or 5 different Batmans and make movies and stories about all those, you know, and you don't ever know there's no, you don't have to have continuity when you're doing that, but also you don't have, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have an overarching story to
Yeah.
keep people involved and thinking, well, I've got to watch this in order to get this and to understand it, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's back when the Wednesday Club was still going on Geek and Sundry. One of the hosts had mentioned one of the reasons why comics, even if they have years where they're not doing well, will always exist. At least in their current format, is that they're the modern mythology. Everyone wants to see a universe where people are doing extraordinary things, where they give answers to questions that you may only think sometimes, but that you'll see a branch connected where it's everything is all connected and interweaved in some way. So, and it's always pushing forward and advancing. You might step back to explain something at some point, but the main thing is, you know, when an event starts, one character affects one thing, affects another thing, affects another thing, affects another thing, and it just kind of spirals down.
Well, I mean, isn't that, you know, I mean, wasn't that what Homer was doing with the Greek gods?
Yeah, and that's what.
And we're just we're retelling stories that he probably was retelling from, you know, stuff that he had already been exposed to.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what why Tolkien made Lord of the Rings, as he wanted to write the English mythology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as adaptions go, if they're done right, and I've been trained to not expect a whole lot whenever a new thing comes along, a new adaptation. I'm pleasantly surprised when they work out well. I look for them to fail, but I don't, you know, I'm surprised and just, you know, I just love it when it works. But you know, as comics are a totally different animal, just like novels are a totally different thing. And I think you do have to change up stuff to make it work when you move from one thing to the other. I just don't like when they try to fundamentally change too much or change a zebra into a leopard, you know, or vice versa. You know, that's where you lose me, you know.
Yeah. And I think that's also where you know, Nolan's Batman really got it right, and where Marvel's getting it right in a lot of places. That it's you change it to match the medium, but you don't change the characters or even necessarily the same the major beats. Because you make it make sense, but you still tell the same character's time, at least a similar style story where it's the same Captain America you read, but in a way you just haven't seen him before. Right.
There has to be some benchmarks that have to be met on certain things, and you know, I think a lot of people were in awe when they were able to see the live action Captain America in you know, the Avengers and the movies. But because I played games, I was playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of already got that cool factor with seeing him live action tearing people up with his shield and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of liked that Captain America and Marvel Ultimate Alliance, the first few, more than I did a lot of these others, because he was a lot more like he was in the comics. But that's the thing, though, is like all these different things of these characters, some of them shine a light on different parts of the character that's in the comics, which makes them awesome, you know. But like, seems like the movie one, he was a little bit more humanized and boyish, even though people say everything they say about him to me sounds like what they're talking about the one in Marvel Ultimate Alliance from years ago. He was like the, chest poked out, brawny
Yeah.
leader, and that's the way his character was depicted in there. As everybody looked to him, for the rational, and planning and all that kind of stuff. And it seems like in the movies he's still kind of trying to figure it out. But they're trying to character build him.
Yeah.
So in the games, they don't really go into all that. He has to be already built and ready to, go in the cutscenes. So
yeah, and I definitely feel like the Captain America and Tony both have the most apparent arcs where Cap definitely, especially in First Avenger and in the First Avenger. Wow, it's Captain America, the First Avenger, and the First Avengers. Movies. He definitely starts out like he's getting the ropes of it. He's trying to figure out what exactly this all is, who he's supposed to be, and what this dynamic is. And then by the time you get to Civil War and Infinity War and Endgame, he definitely becomes more of the, no, this is where I stand and I don't move. You can follow me or you can get bashed.
Well, that's what I love about the MCU, is because, you show up for that. You show up to see that progression, and it's so cohesive. And they stick to the continuity. And I'm not a stickler on continuity unless it's not there.
Right.
When it's not there, I'm like, wait a minute. This is, it just takes me totally out of the immersion of watching it unfold. And, that's why I really like the way the MCU does it as opposed to DC and as opposed to Fox's X-Men.
Yeah.
X-Men, I showed up for the fireworks, the effects, like, wow, this is cool. But it got to where, when people were popping up, they were supposed to be dead or stuff like that. I was just like,
I just start throwing in characters without explaining where they're from. Yeah.
It's a different movie.
Yep. Yeah.
So, I mean, I still enjoyed him. I mean, I think Hugh Jackman was an awesome Wolverine. I know I've heard some stuff about them, in talks.
Yeah.
But he might possibly come out of retirement, but you never know now because they're dipping their toes into this multiverse stuff. So you never know,
Yeah, every time someone brings up Fox's X-Men, I get slightly ticked off about how they treated Olivia Munn and Psylocke. So Olivia Munn was a huge Psylocke fan. She had talked about, she's like, she'd read X-Force growing up, or she was super into the Braddocks. Especially being Asian American herself, she's like, nope, this is my character, this is who I am. And so she trains in Japanese sword for like years leading this movie, and they give her like 1 minute of fighting.
Yeah.
I
mean, imagine that. That's kind of how it goes, though, right? I mean, and she totally did that character. She was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
For that character, and I hate that they didn't use her more going forward. I hope that. I mean, I don't know if they'll ever return to that, but I can't imagine somebody better playing her, just like Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool.
Oh my gosh, he's so perfect in that role.
There is nobody on this earth that could do what he's done with that character.
Yeah, I mean, I
can't even imagine at all.
Speaking of our post-apocalypse world, I went to the movie theater for the first time in like 2 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah. They're open again. It's wild. But I'm gonna go see.
You should have came to Texas. We've been open for about a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been listening to y'all talk about it at different places, and we just kind of. I mean, we had to wear masks and stuff. Now we don't wear masks. Do y'all still?
We just got lifted this last the start of July. The governor said, like, we're going to have an open 4th of July, kind of, it's like, it's going to be what it is.
Now, I will say, if you go to Austin and some places in San Antonio, I mean, they will not let you enter
Yeah.
their place of business without a mask.
Yeah.
But they're a little different.
Yeah.
Places in San Antonio, but especially in Austin.
Yeah.
They were masking up
Yeah.
in March before we even knew what was going on. We were like, "What? There's a pandemic."
Yeah.
And we went to Austin for the weekend, and the grocery store was cleaned out, and people were wearing masks everywhere, and we're like, "Whoa, maybe this is something serious."
Yeah.
And that's when everything went down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Some businesses are still allowed to ask or require that people do, but I mean, they're their own business. It's same thing as no shoes, no shirt. But
Yeah.
yeah. But for the most part, everyone is just kind of
I just don't go in those stores.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's been open. I think I put a mask on once since we reopened, and that was to go into our local bookstore because they say it's not required, but it's appreciated. I'm like, oh, if it makes them feel more comfortable, sure. I've got to give them money anyway. It's owned by one dude and his cat, so want to help out as much as I can. But no, I'm gonna go see the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. Not a great movie.
But you went to the movies.
I went to the movies, but it had Ryan Reynolds in it, and he essentially was playing a toned down version of himself with some like Deadpool.
I don't know if he can play anybody. I mean,
yeah, no, but his ability to carry just about anything is absurd. But then we pair him with someone as out there as Deadpool.
He is just, his improv is. Robin Williams was improv. I mean, he was crazy, that guy.
Yeah.
But come to find out, years later, he actually stole a lot of stuff. He didn't really steal it.
He took on it and made it his own.
Yeah, and he's going to all these comedy places and he's taking it in. Hey, I do the same thing. If I go to reading too many comics and stuff, I have to be careful because sometimes some style starts trying to infringe and get in. Yeah. So I try to kind of go on like when I'm working on something, I try to kind of stay away from stuff a little bit, just so it doesn't influence me. But that's what was happening to him a lot of times, and he would, because he's like saying so much with his time on these talk shows and stuff that there's no, he's pulling this stuff just out of thin air, just like we all do.
Yeah.
Stuff you hear and all that. But anyway,
I can't remember if it was Hourglass or Neil Gaiman. Someone, could be just me. But someone said, our output is the collective sum of all our inputs. Yeah. It's everything we're going to do.
What you take in, how you process it, and then it comes out. Yeah. So that's exactly right. That's why I find it interesting when people kind of get the big head about how far they've gotten and what they're able to do and everything. Everything that you are and everything that you've ever done is due to whatever influences that you have allowed to come into your head. But Ryan Reynolds, amazing. That guy is so amazing. Just to hear him on some of these, just unscripted, funny stuff. And just making people laugh just right there on the spot. I can't even fathom a brain like that. He is just so. Just think if he would have, if the cells in his brain were not on the comedy side and into something else, we'd have probably an Einstein or more.
Yeah.
No telling.
Oh my gosh. I think also when you have, that's kind of a real example of where the storylines in the Deadpool movies are not storylines that have actually happened in the comics. So you just take characters that have happened in the comics and then just get those characters so right. But
and it just doesn't even matter.
Yeah, it's if you get the characters so right, you hit those like the things that you need to hit. You can change it to whatever medium you need to. and that's kind of where I feel like DC, especially if the Justice League has fallen flat, is, you take the characters and the story that has happened in the comics, but then you don't make the characters the characters. You don't even really make them people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just kind of speed walk through the entire thing, not bothering to explain any of the plot. It just feels like...
Well, I just say that, I never watch anything like Deadpool was, like, with so much vulgarity. I just can't bring myself to, but yet I was stuck in the seat when I was watching it, regardless of what was being said, because he's just so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, just so funny. And some of the stuff that happened on those movies, oh my goodness, is so hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And, times when I'd just be like, oh, he said it, don't, it just made me stay regardless. And that was part of the funny part of it, is that I'm actually watching this after that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also, if you do something so right, you'll get people who aren't even necessarily into it. I mean, you have the Stanley rule, which is you write what's cool to you because someone else is going to find it cool, and that's what's going to get it sold, at least to start with. But you'll find these things that just pop up, and it just hits everything so right that everyone immediately stops what they're doing and goes to it. And that was, the first Infinity War and the Civil War comics when they came out, and that's the reason why they've made movies about that. That was Brightest Day and Darkest Night. That was the first run of Saga. That was, all this other stuff. Spawn, especially. That was one thing where no one had really heard about this thing. They're like, oh, this weird new pop-up company started by McFarlane. And then Spawn 1 drops, and everyone is like, oh, this is big. We need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Game of Thrones, same thing, but I'm just going to turn into the Ryan Reynolds cast, but Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool was one of the scenes.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's good. That boy good.
Yeah. I think that doesn't necessarily need to be a goal of adaptation, but I think that is one of the things that you can do if you do it right, and we kind of saw that. I think some metal in my wall just shifted.
I didn't hear anything.
That's nice thing. This microphone it's very focused, but I'm just like,
so if debris falls in on you in just a few minutes,
if the stream goes off, you know what happened.
Yeah.
But that happened with WandaVision. Why people, suddenly it took over the internet. Also Invincible. Oh my gosh! But if you do something that's so right, even if it's just by taking the same exact characters, nailing them, but reinventing the medium, you're going to do a lot to revitalize. Like, I want to see the sales of Scarlet Witch and of Invincible right after those shows went live.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be on Comic-Con probably by the end of the year, but so I will have those statistics to look back on. But
I wonder if I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I wonder if in the Deadpool movies, if people who were fans of, what's his name, Darkstar? It's the guy with the swords.
Oh, Shadowstar?
Shadowstar.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were upset at all. Because they totally neutralized that character. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, they totally killed that character.
They did
in so many ways.
Yeah.
And, I wonder if they were excited. Hey, it's Shadowstar. Wow, he's finally in the movies. And then they see what he actually does to him. Mm-hmm. Oh, my goodness.
It was good. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there probably were a few people, but being someone who, grew up on X-Force, and I knew Shadowstar, I knew Domino, I knew all these people. I was like, no, that scans that. If it's not an X-Force movie, it's a Deadpool movie, and if you're doing Deadpool, people who are normally just super intense in the Marvel universe and need to just be thrown on their face.
Well, there's people out there. There's people out there
who are just
that Shadowstar to them is whatever your greatest character that you can think of is.
Absolutely.
And he just totally just jacked that guy up. I mean, just totally ruined him.
Yeah.
I mean,
But,
just comedy relief.
yeah. I mean, I love also Brad Pitt's 5-second cameo. The fact that he agreed to it for a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Did you hear that story? Brad Pitt and Deadpool 2.
I did not.
Okay.
I did not hear that.
So they were on studio. They were on studio together, and Ryan Reynolds found because he's a producer. He found Brad Pitt on studio, and he's like, "Hey, we're shooting this, and I want to. Would you be?" He's like, "And I want to do a gig. Would you be willing to, pop in for 5 minutes on your way out?" And he says, "Yeah, if you buy me coffee for the day." So Ryan Reynolds bought him coffee, and Brad Pitt showed up to get electrocuted and left.
Oh, that's good stuff. That is good stuff.
But I mean, I got Pierce Brosnan as Cable, so that was perfect for me. I mean, I was very happy with that movie. Yeah.
Oh man, that movie put me over my F-bomb quota.
Oh yeah.
For the next 2 years after. I mean, holy moly.
Yes.
Show was so hilarious. Now that one was an adaptation that, again, I did not even watch that movie for the story. I mean, I'm glad it had one, but I'm just saying it's not one that you would have went into, to get his origin story or anything definitive on the character of Deadpool other than Deadpool being Deadpool.
Right.
But that kind of works with Deadpool because that's the way Deadpool is. So, yeah.
1 second. I just. Oh my gosh, why? Your brain fart. I said Pierce Brosnan, but it is not Pierce Brosnan.
Brolin?
Josh Brolin. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they kind of look similar, but no, Josh Brolin is Deadpool as Cable. That was good. But yeah, no, that movie was the way they. We kind of talked about this where you have, if you do too much extreme violence or too much whatever, it can get overbearing. Mm-hmm. But if that's the point where, no, this is supposed to be too much, you can do that well. And I feel like they did that well.
Well, I mean, he is just throwing that stuff out there so fast. And that's what's amazing to me about Ryan Reynolds. Mm-hmm. I know and all that was scripted and everything, but I'm just saying, 5 minutes for that guy compared to other people's 5 minutes, they can't get said in 5 minutes, what he can. I mean, they can't say in 20 minutes the amount of stuff that he says in 5 minutes.
Absolutely,
it's just so rapid fire, and it's like you're laughing at this, but before it can even get through your brain, he's hitting something else that's like hilarious, and it's just, man, it's so crazy.
Oh, and the character's moniker is the Merc with a Mouth. Like that's the actor for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Maybe on the lines of a non-traditional adaptation. What did you think about Logan?
I liked it for what it was. It was a good ending to the story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I liked it a lot. I liked it, I think, as much as I did any of the other movies. There were some of them fell off quite a bit. But that was but the thing about that one was, and kind of the reason why I liked it, was that it was so different.
Yeah.
Like they weren't, there was nothing the people they were trying to save and all that kind of stuff. This was just one of those, stories where stuff is just happening and, they're kind of at the end. And of course there was, more than that to the story, but I'm just saying it was so different. It just didn't even seem like an X-Men movie. It seemed like their powers and abilities was just so secondary to what was going on, And to imagine, seeing Professor X, of course, in the comics he's dying all the time, but to see, Patrick Stewart, throw F-bombs out and just be a grouchy old dementia, riddled man, and see Wolverine actually growing old and getting to see that side of that character was really good. I really enjoyed that part of it. If I had to say, it just seemed like here you've taken two characters that most of what they've been doing in the movies up to that point was kind of focusing on their abilities and what they could do. It was really a big part of the plot. And in this movie, it just really seemed like this was more about their relationship.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and their abilities was just so secondary you wouldn't even notice it. I mean, of course it's a big deal, but it's not front and center.
Yeah.
It's that's why I enjoyed it, because it was so different.
Yeah, absolutely. It was I think what Fox had done and why it kind of killed the X-Men movies was it did become too focused on the special effects, and we need to go from eye candy to eye candy. Whereas it was just a solid movie from start to finish, and these are the characters and this is their story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only time I've ever really noticed a real character-driven story where I didn't really pay any attention to the fireworks, the flashing lights, the special effects, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you're thinking about what I like to think about, going back and trying to think about what worked in something and what didn't, or if something worked or if it didn't. I'll give it time to kind of fade in the back of my memory, and then I'll go back and try to recall what's most memorable about it. So if I don't remember anything, it didn't work. Or if I think back to Age of Apocalypse, it's just a few action scenes. I don't remember really much else. But going back to thinking on Old Man Logan, it's Silverline Comics says, "What's up, fellas? Hello, us." I'm guessing that's either one of the mans, or could be Dante. But
what's up, Silverline?
Yeah. But thinking back to Old Man Logan, it's it's the slow moments. It's when they're hanging out with Caliban in the desert, or it's Logan walking through the woods at X-23, or it's the car ride where Xavier is very clearly dying while Logan is trying to keep himself together long enough to get going. And it's just the slow, quiet moments, which is kind of weird for that's what stands out. But it's just, it's the characters that really stood out in the movie, and what really made it so special was the fact that you somehow made the story about a Canadian super soldier who's been alive since before the Civil War feel like such a real person that
yeah. Yep. I really that's definitely what I say about that movie. That entire movie was just so different. Mm-hmm. It was so different than what I was expecting even going into it. And I think they both did a really, really super good job. And I really wonder, how they're gonna be using them going forward. I don't think Patrick Stewart will probably be. I mean, I haven't really heard anything.
Yeah. I know he is on board for Picard season 2, so he is still acting.
Yeah.
I mean, for being as old as he is spry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy just didn't seem to age for so many years,
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember watching Dune way back in the day.
Yeah.
And he actually has a little more hair there. It's just longer.
Yep.
But he looks the same as when he started on Next Generation, and then it seems like in Next Generation he just never changed.
Yeah, he was the same.
And then by the time he started the X-Men movies, he looked exactly like he did. I mean, he's just one of those people that just never seemed to age.
Yeah, just very good diet and skin care routine.
Yeah, I don't know. Him and Paul Rudd.
Oh, yeah.
There's a few more that are like that. They just don't change.
Keanu
like the Hoth.
Yeah, the Hoth.
The Hoth. Yeah.
Keanu Reeves he's put on he's got a little bit of the older gaunt, but I mean, looking at him, he ages in 10-year blocks, but only then he only ages back a few years.
Yep. Yep, I agree. He's another one.
Yep.
I was able to kind of notice it a little bit on It was the one before he played. It wasn't even a very great movie. He played in a movie before he was playing in
John Wick? But before John Wick?
it was before John Wick. It was right before John Wick. It was where he was a scientist.
Oh.
I just didn't think that role was good for him.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I'm not usually one to say something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm all for people doing what they want to do, but just seemed like, I don't know, I never really took him as, like a scientist. I don't know, I guess maybe it was my own personal, ideas about Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
I've never really looked at him as being like, that type.
Oh,
I don't know.
replicas.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. No, that was a little weird. And
He seemed a little too quiet during the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I really love to see him, and I really love him as an actor and a person.
Yeah.
Just the way he carries himself, and he doesn't get into any trouble. I've always respected that a lot about him.
Absolutely. Silverline Comics. It's Curtis writing. Can't log out of the account just yet. Well, thanks for checking in, Curtis. Hope you're doing well down.
Mr. Curtis.
Sunny, beautiful.
Mr. Shadow Ghost.
Exactly. Curtis, of course, writing upcoming Silverline comic, which I'm super stoked for. Anything Kung Fu, I get, Yeah, it's great. I'm super stoked for Shang-Chi. Speaking of adaptations, holy cow. That looks like it's going to be a good time.
I didn't know what to think about that because I wasn't real familiar with Shang-Chi.
Oh, yeah.
And then the more I've seen of the movie, the more I've, gotten to kind of build a little bit of excitement up over it. But I had never really ever been familiar with him. There's certain characters that have totally slipped by my radar throughout the years.
Yeah.
And he's one of them.
Yeah, I knew a little bit about Shang-Chi just because, I was familiar with Iron Fist. And then also through Iron Man, familiar with the Mandarin and Shang-Chi's relationship with the Mandarin. But
well, see, I knew about the Mandarin. Iron Fist was because I came back in around Civil War time. That's when I was introduced to the Iron Fist and like Ronin and a few others.
Yeah.
So I knew them from there, but I didn't ever really see Shang-Chi.
Yeah. I like how they interpreted the Mandarin's 10 rings as bracers for the film. Look, it's going to be a good time movie. Yeah, I am. Yeah, exactly. I like the way they're interpreting certain things, and I'm so stoked for it, especially with the way it looks like they're going to be spending a lot of time in Madripoor and maybe Kunlun. I'm hoping. I'm almost wondering if they don't throw in some sort of Gorgon reference, given also his relation with Madripoor, Mandarin, and all that. Even though he is in X-Men, but with Marvel acquiring the rights to X-Men again, we'll see how.
I'm very interested to see how all that's gonna unfold. They say it's gonna be years. I don't know that it's gonna be years. I think it'd be smart if it was years, but I think I especially think if some of their next stuff doesn't come out really well, they might try to
sorry, but yeah, I think
start it early.
Yeah,
but
I think we just need to see how they sprinkle it all in.
I have to believe it's going to be the multiverse stuff.
Yeah, I was almost thinking. I was almost thinking that was how WandaVision was going to end. Was it would be like a reverse House of M moment, where instead of saying no more mutants, she's like, okay, mutants.
And now what you're saying, I kind of expect to be in the Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah. It'd definitely be interesting for sure. I mean,
Doctor Strange was one that surprised me.
Yeah, I think
us talking about adaptions.
Yeah,
I did not expect anything going in there, and I this is one of the very few times that I went in just kind of I'm going to watch a Marvel movie. It's going to be great, just casual, and I came out like, wow.
Yeah,
I've really got to check into some Doctor Strange now.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was aware of him, a lot, from World War Hulk and, of course, Defenders going all the way back to, Secret Wars and stuff. But, man, that really, really, really got me interested in him. But, I mean, Cumberbatch, he's awesome anyway.
Oh
so.
yeah, I mean I think what the Doctor Strange and Logan really kind of showed as far as adapting, comics works is it doesn't just have to be and comic fans had known this, but for the moviegoer, a superhero movie doesn't just have to be a superhero movie. Like a comic book isn't just a superhero comic book.
Mm-hmm.
It's you have like Marvel's whole noir line where it's a noir telling of these heroes' stories.
Yep.
And I think Logan showed you could have a superhero western, and Doctor Strange you can have a superhero psychedelic thriller, and I'm hoping Shang-Chi is also gonna no, this is a kung fu movie with superheroes. Like it's a kung fu movie, and so I'm also the cast on that. Holy cow! It's gonna be a good time.
Here's one off of the heroes. Snake Eyes coming out. What do you think? What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, G.I. Joe movies are interesting that it almost has like the same appeal as the Fast and Furious movies. Roman's like, they're not good, but they're a fun time, and we're here for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that I did not see Retaliation.
Yeah.
I saw the first one, Rise of Cobra.
Yeah.
And I did not show back up for Retaliation.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't my Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I kind of want to check into this one just because it may be a little different.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if you've heard this, but they, as long as everything goes according to plan, never does hardly.
Mm-hmm.
But if it goes well, they actually have stuff lined up after it. They have a series.
Okay.
I think Netflix they're planning for Lady J, and even some other movies that are after Snake Eyes Origins. Not like sequels, but just I don't know what all they're going to do with it. We'll see. But I think it's pretty interesting. It could be something good. When I watched Rise of Cobra, though, Transformers had just come out, so they were trying to do all this crazy technological stuff to try to meet, the success of Transformers, and I just don't think it worked. I mean, G.I. Joe became this super sci-fi gadget crew. It just didn't work. It wasn't G.I. Joe.
No, I think honestly it would probably, if they did commit more to almost like a Fast and Furious route where it's not about like, obviously the vehicles are a big part of like the brand because you always have to get the tank, you always have to get Duke's Joe. But it's just, and
you almost had to put that in the future. A good GI Joe, in order to adapt it, you almost had to just throw it into the future and do it that way. I mean, I hate to say that, but because really, I mean, I think at the base of it, like superheroes, they have their powers. That's their, they have their abilities and stuff like that, or mutations, whatever it is. And, with G.I. Joe, they don't really have abilities other than their skill. They have skill on their side. And, of course, they have this wicked awesome enemy, and they have wicked awesome, military vehicles and stuff and guns and all that, but I don't really know what the line's going to be on that. How you get from the comics to because it's more military, and usually if you watch something military on TV, you're expecting some death and some Saving Private Ryan and stuff like that. I don't know how you would work it, where it would be enjoyable and military at the same time.
I almost feel like you'd have to go down the Fast and Furious route where it's vehicles go fast, blow up, but also spend a lot of time in espionage moments because they're a commando unit, so they should be infiltrating.
But also, I haven't watched a single one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I just I think I may have watched the first one.
Yeah.
I
haven't watched anything.
And I just got away from
cartoons.
it. Yeah, I got away from it, and I just kept seeing them put them out one after the other, and I was like, I don't know. It's like around number 5, I was like, I don't. I just wonder. This must be good. It must be good, but this other movie's out. I'm gonna go watch it. And I just never got to it.
The Fast series is at the point where people are like, it's not cinematic gold. It's there because it knows exactly what it is and what it wants to do, and it's fun.
And it's really weird that I've never watched it because I like Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
I like Dwayne the Rock Johnson. I like Brian Statham. Is that his name? Jason Statham.
Yeah.
And I like all the actors in it. I just have never really watched it.
I think G.I. Joe kind of needs that road where it's just bigger than life characters. Have moments where it's fast car, go zoom, stuff blows up. But then then cut back to moments of for Fast and Furious they cut back to some moments where it's time spent on their family, as the meme goes. The Dom memes are now back in vogue, but setting up heists because that's crime thrillers. The heist is a go-to for G.I. Joe. You got to cut back to like infiltration. Have like Scarlet or Snake Eyes like just doing the zip line down in between 2 Cobra soldiers.
You know what I think I would like to see is, we mentioned this movie earlier, Captain America, the First Avenger.
Yeah.
I would like to see a G.I. Joe like that. Now, not with them, of course, being shot up with a serum.
Right, yeah.
Serum. But I'm saying that kind of, these people are extraordinary.
Yeah.
They're not extraordinary. They don't have super abilities. But they are extraordinary people. I would like to see something like that, I think if they could do that, if they could pull it off, I would watch it. We'll see what happens. I will watch Snake Eyes because I do want to see it. And if it's going to be something good, I want it to win. There's just some things I really want to like. And then, a lot of times I just can't like them after I see them. I just, I tried.
Yeah.
I gave you guys my money. I tried, but it sucked.
Yeah.
Sorry. Do better.
I think also another reason why G.I. Joe will also have to be done in the future is how else do you like really get into Cobra versus the Joe unit? Because I mean, if we're to do something like a Captain America where it's like these select individuals like in comparison to the standard rank and file. How do they realize it? Like, it's like the best of the world. You got to have like a really weird UN peacekeeping force.
Well, that was another thing that I hated about Rise of Cobra. Is I don't want to know where Cobra Commander came from.
Yeah.
I don't want to know where Destro came from. I don't want to see their origin stories. That's part of the mystique of the character.
Yeah,
is that you never see his face. You never see Destro's face. They're just there. They pop up out of nowhere and they're doing stuff. And we got to go stop them.
Yeah.
And then you may find out a few things. But, leave it for the next one.
Yeah.
Don't put all your cards out on the table, I mean, it was such a disappointment because Cobra Commander was, just another person. And in the movie, and I just didn't, I think they just went all wrong with it. That's one of the things I loved about Darth Vader in Star Wars is you didn't see his face. You didn't ever really see him till the end, and you didn't find out really key things about him until, Empire. And that was one of the things that really pushed him forward,
Absolutely.
Dr. Doom, I think that's why he's my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't know about him for so long. You really wonder. And Snake Eyes. I think one of the reasons why Snake Eyes was ever what he was, not only his abilities, there were other commandos and other ninjas in pop culture at the time, but you never saw his face. You didn't know where he came from. It was always, you wondering about him.
And the fact that he
And then they
always...
finally showed a splash page of his face in one G.I. Joe Special Missions. I can't remember what number. I want to say it was in the 20s. You can Google it. And that's really, you got to see bits and pieces of his background. But
yeah. Well, also the fact that also he had taken that vow of silence, so he just have moments where, Duke would say something, and then it'd be a panel of Snake signing something, and then you'd get the caption. And I had some friends who were, deaf in elementary school, and also you hear stories about this like on the Reddit where members of the deaf community who they had to communicate in ASL, and then all of a sudden you have this comic book super character communicating in sign language. You're like, holy cow!
Yeah.
And just that
that's one thing I always liked about him, though. He had just a lot of depth without even having to say much about him.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have to say, and I've always wondered this, if you sign, are you really in a vow of silence because you're talking?
Yeah. It's an interesting loophole for sure.
Yeah, really. It's like, I'm never going to bathe again, but I'll go swimming at the beach every day.
I'm just covered in Old Spice.
Right. I'm never going to bathe again, but I have a tub outside. I'm going to go swimming in my pool. Yeah, every time I start getting a little stinchy.
There we go. Well, it is about that time, so we're going to be wrapping things up here. This has been a Silverline show on Tuesday. Our first hour was spent talking about comics that inspired us as kids. This last hour has been about adaptations.
Everything.
Just about everything. And TV versus film and everything in between. We are going to be back next Tuesday. But until then, we will have shows live tomorrow. That is Wednesday. And again on Sunday. And of course, you can follow us on silverlinecomics.com for the blog. I will need to be reaching out to some people for some more contributions here soon. So if you're a Silverliner, check your email boxes. And for everyone else, we will see you later. And remember to make mine
Silverline.